Most men approach starting a conversation with a woman the same way they approach a job interview. Over-prepared on the wrong things, nervous about the outcome, and reciting lines they rehearsed in private that sound completely unnatural the moment they leave their mouth. The woman smiles politely. He mistakes that for progress. It wasn't progress. That was her being kind while internally checking out. The conversation starter obsession in male dating spaces has produced some of the most robotic, transparently scripted human interactions in modern history. Men memorizing openers like they're cramming for an exam, delivering them with the natural ease of someone reading terms and conditions out loud, then wondering why the energy never takes off. The truth about conversation starters is that the line itself is almost never the problem or the solution. What a woman responds to in the first 15 seconds of an interaction is almost entirely about energy, presence, and social calibration, not the specific combination of words used. A mediocre line delivered by a confident, present, genuinely unbothered man will outperform the most perfectly crafted opener delivered by someone visibly auditioning for her approval every single time. That said, the right openers understood correctly and delivered with the right energy genuinely do work, not because they're magic scripts, but because they're built on sound psychological principles that create real engagement rather than polite tolerance. So, here are 7 of them. Study why they work, not just what they say. In the first 15 seconds of an interaction, a woman's brain is running an evaluation that has nothing to do with the specific words being spoken. This isn't cynical, it's human. The brain is assessing safety, social intelligence, confidence level, and whether this person is worth continued attention. All of that happens before the content of what's being said even fully registers. What this means practically is that an opener functions less like a key and more like a first impression painting. The words are the brushstrokes, but the overall picture, tone, body language, energy, eye contact, is what she actually sees. A man who understands this stops obsessing over finding the perfect line and starts focusing on the overall impression he's creating when he opens his mouth. There are 3 things a strong opener communicates simultaneously, and the best ones do all 3 without announcing any of them. The first is presence. He's actually here, engaged, not distracted or performing. The second is social awareness. He read the room correctly before approaching, which signals intelligence. The third is low investment in outcome. He's enjoying the interaction regardless of where it goes, which communicates abundance rather than desperation. That last one is the most important and the hardest to fake. Women have a finely tuned radar for neediness. The slight over-explanation, the laugh that comes too fast, the question asked while visibly bracing for the answer. These micro-signals betray a man's actual emotional state, regardless of how smooth his line sounds on paper. Psychologically, the openers that consistently work share one characteristic. They invite a response rather than demand one. They create a conversational opening rather than putting pressure on her to validate his approach. The difference between those 2 dynamics is felt immediately, even when it can't be articulated. Understanding this reframes the entire concept of conversation starters. They're not scripts to memorize. They're social moves with specific psychological logic behind them. And knowing that logic is what allows a man to adapt them naturally, rather than deliver them like an actor who forgot he's supposed to seem spontaneous. Starter number 1, the observational opener. This one is built on situational awareness, which is immediately attractive because most men walk into environments completely absorbed in their own heads. A man who actually notices what's happening around him and comments on it intelligently signals presence. And presence, as already established, is half the battle before a word is spoken. The observational opener is exactly what it sounds like, something genuinely noticed about the environment, the situation, or something she's doing turned into a light, natural comment that invites a response without demanding one. Not a compliment about her appearance, something contextual. She's at a bookstore holding a title he recognizes. That one actually lives up to the hype, which almost never happens. She's at a coffee shop with a laptop covered in stickers. Your laptop has more personality than most people in here. She's at a social event, standing slightly apart from the main crowd. You look like you're doing the same cost-benefit analysis about this party that I am. Each of these works because it demonstrates he was paying attention to her specifically, not just scanning the room for any available woman. That selectivity reads as genuine interest rather than desperation. And it gives her something real to respond to rather than a yes or no social trap. Sub 2, the playful challenge. This one introduces light tension immediately, which is psychologically engaging in a way that pure warmth simply isn't. The playful challenge isn't an insult. It's a tease with a smile behind it. It treats her as someone worth pushing back on, rather than someone to be impressed. She mentions she's good at something. Bold claim. Jury's still out. Everyone says that. I'll believe it when I see it. She makes a playful comment herself. That was almost clever. The key delivery requirement for this one is the energy behind it. Genuinely light, never mean, always with the body language of someone who finds her entertaining, rather than someone scoring points. Done correctly, it makes her laugh, and immediately creates a dynamic where she wants to prove herself. That engagement is exactly where good conversations live. 3. The genuine curiosity opener. This opener works on a principle that is consistently underestimated in male dating spaces. People are genuinely drawn to someone who finds them interesting, not attractive, not impressive, interesting. There's a subtle but significant difference, and women feel it immediately. The genuine curiosity opener asks a question that has no obvious answer, something that actually requires her to think and reveals something real about herself, not what do you do, which is essentially a LinkedIn exchange with eye contact, something that opens a window rather than ticking a box. She's clearly choosing between two things, a dish, a book, a direction. What's the actual argument for the other one? She's somewhere unexpected for her demographic or aesthetic. What's the story behind you being here? She mentions something in passing that's genuinely interesting. Wait, back up. That's actually worth a full explanation. What makes this work psychologically is that it communicates he's more interested in who she is than in impressing her with who he is. That reversal of the typical male approach is rare enough to be immediately noticeable. Most men spend opening conversations performing. This one makes her the more interesting person in the exchange, and people never forget someone who made them feel that way. The critical requirement is that the curiosity is real. Performed interest reads as hollow within seconds. If the question is being asked just to seem engaged while internally rehearsing the next line, she'll feel the gap between the question and the actual attention being paid to her answer. Serve 4, the confident direct opener. This is the highest risk, highest reward opener on the list, and it works entirely on the strength of delivery. There are no situational hooks, no playful misdirection, no conversational scaffolding, just clean, calm, unapologetic honesty. You caught my attention, and I wanted to come say hi. I thought you looked interesting and wanted to find out if I was right. I don't usually do this, but something told me I'd regret not coming over. What makes these land is the complete absence of meatiness in the delivery, said with steady eye contact, relaxed body language, and zero visible anxiety about her reaction. This opener communicates more confidence than almost anything else on this list. It says he knows what he wants, he's not ashamed of it, and her response won't determine whether he has a good day. Said while visibly nervous, voice slightly raised with an apologetic lean. It becomes uncomfortable immediately. Same words, completely different reality. 5. The callback opener. This one requires something most openers don't. Prior interaction. Even minimal prior interaction. A brief exchange earlier in the same environment. A passing moment where eyes met and something small happened. A previous conversation that ended without a clear continuation. The callback opener takes that small existing thread and pulls on it deliberately. You were right earlier. I just confirmed it, and I'm annoyed about it. I've been thinking about what you said about that, and I have objections. We made eye contact across the room 20 minutes ago, and I decided that counted as an introduction. The psychological power here is significant. It communicates that she was memorable enough to think about, which is flattering without being a compliment. It also creates instant continuity, a sense that this conversation already has a history, even if that history is 20 minutes old. Humans are wired to feel more comfortable with familiarity, and the callback opener manufactures that familiarity cleverly without being manipulative about it. It also sidesteps the cold approach energy entirely. Instead of two strangers starting from zero, the dynamic already has a small foundation, and building on an existing foundation always feels more natural than breaking new ground from scratch. She doesn't feel approached. She feels continued, which is a completely different social experience. 6. The shared experience opener. Similar in principle to the callback, but doesn't require prior direct interaction, just shared context. Both people are in the same environment, experiencing the same thing, witnessing the same moment. The shared experience opener simply acknowledges that out loud in a way that creates an instant us dynamic between two people who haven't spoken yet. Something mildly chaotic just happened in the room. Well, that happened. The event they're both at is going in an unexpected direction. I don't think this is what either of us signed up for. Something genuinely funny just occurred that only people in their immediate vicinity caught. A look, a quiet comment, a shared reaction. The reason this works so consistently is that it requires zero vulnerability and zero agenda on the surface. It's just two people reacting to the same thing simultaneously. But underneath that casualness, it's creating something real, a shared perspective, a small private joke that belongs only to the two of them in that moment. That kind of instant micro-connection is surprisingly powerful, precisely because it didn't feel engineered. The best version of this opener doesn't even fully announce itself as an opener. It just feels like two people who happen to be in the same place at the same time and found each other amusing, which when done right is exactly what it is. And lastly, Factor 7, the opinion opener. But this only works when done right. The opinion opener has been floating around male dating advice spaces for years, and in most of those spaces, it gets taught in a way that makes it almost guaranteed to fail. The standard version sounds something like walking up to a woman and asking her to settle a fake debate between him and a friend who conveniently isn't there. She immediately knows it's a script. He immediately knows she knows. And now, they're both just standing there, participating in a social fiction that benefits nobody. That version deserves to be retired permanently. The opinion opener done correctly isn't a manufactured premise. It's a genuine question about something he actually has an opinion on, asked in a way that frames her perspective as genuinely worth having. The distinction sounds small. The difference in how it lands is enormous. He's genuinely deciding between two things, and the context makes her relevant to ask. You look like someone with actual taste. Settle something for me. He just heard something that sparked a real reaction, and she's nearby. Quick, honest opinion. Is this as strange as I think it is, or am I reading this wrong? He notices something about her that suggests she'd have a specific perspective worth hearing. You seem like you'd have a strong opinion on this, and I'm curious if I'm right. Each of these works because the question is real. The interest in her answer is genuine, and the framing gives her a role in the conversation, rather than putting her in the position of simply evaluating his approach. She's not being asked to decide whether she likes him. She's being asked to contribute something. And people respond to being treated as someone worth consulting. The follow-up is where this opener either builds into a real conversation or collapses. A man who asks for her opinion and then barely listens to the answer before pivoting to his next prepared move has revealed that the question was never genuine. She'll feel that pivot immediately, and the energy will drop. But a man who asks, actually listens, responds to what she specifically said rather than what he planned to say next. That back and forth is no longer an opener, it's already a conversation. And that transition from approach to genuine exchange is the whole goal of every single starter on this list. 7 openers, each built on real psychological principles, each designed to create genuine engagement rather than polite tolerance. But the thread running through all of them is the same. Presence over performance, genuine interest over scripted impressiveness, and the energy of a man who is enjoying the interaction rather than surviving it. The observational opener, the playful challenge, genuine curiosity, confident directness, the callback, the shared experience, the real opinion opener. None of them require a man to be someone he isn't. They require him to be more fully himself, aware, engaged, unbothered, and actually interested in the person in front of him. Memorizing lines without understanding why they work is just trading one script for another. Understanding the psychology behind them means a man can adapt, improvise, and stay present rather than mentally flipping through rehearsed material while a real human being stands in front of him, waiting to be actually met. Pick one. Try it this week. Not because it's guaranteed to work every time. Nothing is. But because the only way to get better at this is to actually do it, learn from it, and adjust. Confidence in conversation is built through repetition, not preparation. Drop a comment below. Which opener are you actually going to use? And which one makes you most uncomfortable? Those 2 answers together will tell you everything you need to know about where to start. Every comment gets a personal response, because that's how this community works. Real engagement, not just content. Share this with a man who needs it. And if you're not subscribed yet, fix that right now.